Welcome back to Crash Course Tell Us. Let's close your eyes quickly. I am going to tell you a relaxing story, so if you like my video, please like and subscribe. Let's start.
The Cabin in the Rain, A Night of Terror. Introduction: the stormy night. Sophia was a quiet, introspective young woman who loved solo adventures. One evening, as the sky darkened, she found herself driving through a secluded forest road. Thunder rumbled in the distance, and raindrops splattered against her windshield. She had planned this trip to escape the chaos of city life, but as her car's fuel gauge hit empty, dread began to creep in. She pulled over to the side of the road. Her phone had no signal, and the rain was getting heavier. Sophia stepped out, clutching her coat tightly around her. In the dim light of her flashlight, she noticed a faint trail leading into the woods. Following it, she stumbled upon an old wooden cabin. The cabin looked abandoned, with broken shutters and ivy creeping up its walls. Desperation outweighed caution, and Sophia pushed open the creaking door. Inside, the air was musty, the furniture covered in dust. She decided to spend the night there, hoping the storm would pass by morning. The cabin's strange atmosphere. Sophia lit a small kerosene lamp she found on the table. The faint glow illuminated the room, revealing odd objects, faded paintings of somber-faced people, a broken clock stuck at 12, and a strange diary sitting on the table. The cabin was eerily quiet, except for the sound of rain pounding on the roof. Curious, Sophia opened the diary. The pages were filled with hurried handwriting. It belonged to a woman named Eleanor, who had once lived in the cabin. The entries spoke of her loneliness and fear of someone or something watching her. One entry caught Sophia's attention. The shadows grow longer at night. I hear whispers from the walls. I must leave, but I'm trapped. Beware the midnight hour. Chilled to the bone, Sophia closed the diary. She tried to reassure herself that it was just an old story. She decided to rest on the dusty couch, hoping the rain would lull her to sleep. The first signs of danger. As Sophia drifted off, strange noises jolted her awake. She heard faint footsteps coming from the hallway. Gripping her flashlight, she called out, "Hello, is anyone there?" Silence followed. Sophia checked the hallway but found nothing. Returning to the living room, she noticed the diary had moved. It now lay open on a different page, with fresh writing that hadn't been there before. "Leave while you can." Her heart raced. Suddenly, the old radio in the corner crackled to life, playing a haunting tune. The music seemed to echo through the cabin, growing louder with each second. Terrified, Sophia unplugged the radio, but it kept playing. Through the window, she saw a shadowy figure standing in the rain, watching her. The figure didn't move, but its presence felt oppressive. When she blinked, it vanished. The hidden basement. Shaken, Sophia decided to explore the cabin further, hoping to find something that could explain the strange occurrences. As she moved a dusty route, she discovered a trapdoor leading to a basement. The basement was dark and damp, with shelves filled with jars of unidentifiable substances. In the center of the room was a locked chest. Beside it lay a rusted key, which Sophia used to open the chest. Inside, she found a portrait of Eleanor, the woman from the diary. Bloodstained tools that hinted at violence. A crumpled note that read, "He betrayed me, now I'll wait." As Sophia tried to leave the basement, the trapdoor slammed shut. She banged on it, yelling for help, but the cabin absorbed her cries. When the door finally creaked open, she hurried back upstairs, only to find the cabin had changed. The paintings now depicted horrific images of screaming faces, and the clock had started ticking toward midnight. The ghost's appearance. As the clock struck 12, the room grew icy cold. The kerosene lamp flickered violently before going out. In the darkness, Sophia heard the whispers again. louder this time. A shadow began to form in the corner of the room, taking the shape of a woman. It was Eleanor's ghost, her face twisted with anger and sorrow. "Why are you here?" the ghost hissed. "You shouldn't have come." Sophia begged for mercy, but Eleanor's ghost advanced, blaming Sophia for disturbing her peace. The room shook as objects flew off the shelves. Sophia realized she needed to uncover the full truth about Eleanor's death to escape. Uncovering the truth, Sophia returned to the basement, piecing together the clues from the diary and the chest's contents. She discovered that Eleanor had been murdered by her husband, who had buried her body beneath the cabin. Eleanor's spirit had been trapped there, growing more vengeful over the years. Sophia grabbed a shovel from the corner and began digging in the basement floor. After hours of grueling effort, she unearthed a skeletal hand as she pulled the rest of the remains from the ground. Eleanor's ghost appeared again, this time weeping. "You must free me," the ghost whispered. The escape. Sophia carried Eleanor's remains outside and buried them under a tree, whispering a prayer for her soul to find peace. The storm intensified as the cabin began to collapse behind her, consumed by flames that erupted without warning. Sophia fled into the forest, the rain washing away her tears. She felt a sense of relief, but couldn't shake the feeling that something was still watching her. As she reached the road, she heard a faint whisper in the wind. "It's not over." The cabin in the rain, a night of terror, the haunting aftermath. A false sense of safety. After escaping the collapsing cabin, Sophia thought her ordeal was over. She walked for hours through the rain, following the forest road until she found an old gas station. Exhausted and soaked, she stumbled inside, where a middle-aged attendant greeted her with concern. "Are you all right? Miss, you look like you've seen a ghost," he said. Sophia hesitated, unsure whether to share her bizarre experience. Instead, she simply asked if she could use the phone. The attendant handed her an old rotary phone, but when Sophia tried to dial, all she heard was static. "That thing's been acting up all night," the man said. "Storms tend to mess with it." As she waited for help, Sophia glanced at a bulletin board covered with faded missing person posters. Her heart sank when she spotted a familiar facility. The poster was decades old, but there was no mistaking it. Written across the bottom were the words, "Last seen near her home off Route 47. Please call with any information." The attendant noticed her staring. For Eleanor," he said. "Legend has it her spirit still haunts that old cabin up the road. Folks say it's cursed. You didn't happen to come from that direction, did you?" Sophia frowned, unable to respond. Before she could say anything, the lights in the gas station flickered, and the radio behind the counter began playing the same haunting tune she had heard in the cabin. The return of the shadows. The attendant looked puzzled. "That's strange. This radio hasn't worked in years." Sophia's fear returned as the shadows in the corners of the gas station deepened. Suddenly, the door slammed shut and a cold wind swept through the room. The same whispers she had heard in the cabin filled the air, growing louder and more menacing. "Miss, what's going on?" the attendant asked, his voice shaking. Before Sophia could warn him, the shadowy figure from the forest reappeared, standing just outside the gas station window. It was no longer raining, but the figure was drenched, its form distorted as though it didn't fully belong to this world. The attendant screamed as the glass shattered, and the figure stepped inside. Sophia grabbed his arm, pulling him toward the storage room. "We have to hide," she shouted. The gas station's secret. Inside the storage room, Sophia and the attendant barricaded the door. As they caught their breath, the attendant whispered, "This isn't the first time something like this has happened. People disappear around here. They say the forest itself is cursed. Sophia pressed him for more information, and he reluctantly admitted that strange occurrences had plagued the area for decades. Travelers often reported seeing the same shadowy figure before vanishing without a trace. Some say it's Eleanor's husband. The attendant said, others think it's something older, something tied to the land itself. Whatever it is, it doesn't let go of its victims. Sophia realized she might not have ended the curse when she buried Eleanor. If anything, she might have unleashed something far worse. The chase. A loud bang on the storage room door snapped them out of their conversation. The figure was trying to break in. The door shook violently as the whispers turned into guttural growls. Sophia spotted a hatch in the ceiling leading to the roof. We have to get out of here, she said, climbing up. The attendant hesitated, but followed her just as the door splintered open. On the roof, they could see the figure standing in the room below, its head tilting unnaturally as it searched for them. Sophia and the attendant jumped down to the ground, running toward the woods. The forest was darker than before, the trees seeming to close in around them. The whispers followed, accompanied by flickers of shadowy movement. No. The cabin in the rain, a night of terror. The shadows curse. A forest of no escape. Sophia and the gas station attendant ran deeper into the forest, but it seemed more alive and sinister than before. The trees' branches twisted unnaturally, blocking their path, as if the forest itself didn't want them to leave. Where are we going? The attendant asked, his voice trembling. I don't know, Sophia shouted back, her voice shaking. She could feel that something was following them, watching their every move. When she turned her head, she saw the shadow again. It wasn't running, it didn't need to. Its dark, distorted form glided through the trees effortlessly, as if the forest was a part of it. Finally, they stumbled into a clearing. In the middle stood an ancient, moss-covered well. Near the well was a stone slab with faded inscriptions carved into it. Sophia squinted and read the ominous words aloud. This land is cursed. Those buried here will never rest until their sins are revealed. Unveiling the curse, Sophia suddenly realized that Eleanor's tragic death was only part of a much larger curse. This land wasn't just haunted, it was poisoned by darkness that consumed anyone who crossed its boundaries. How do we stop this? The attendant whispered, panic creeping into his voice. Before Sophia could respond, a bone-chilling scream echoed from the well. They both stepped back as the shadow began to rise from its depths. The figure was clearer now, a spectral form, resembling Eleanor's husband. His hollow eyes burned with malice as he dragged himself out of the well. He wasn't just a shadow, he was the very source of the curse, bound to the land by his horrific deeds. Fight or flee? Sophia realized there was no escaping this time. The curse would only end if the truth about Eleanor's murder was brought to light. She spotted a dagger lying near the well, its blade tarnished but still sharp. This is the weapon, she murmured. It was the same dagger Eleanor's husband had used to kill her. The well had kept it hidden all these years, waiting for someone to use it. You can't run from your sins, Sophia said, stepping toward the shadow. It hissed and recoiled, as if her words burned it. Breaking the curse, Sophia hurled the dagger into the well with all her strength. The moment it hit the water, a deafening roar filled the clearing. The shadow let out a final, agonizing scream before collapsing into a cloud of smoke. that was sucked back into the well. The forest suddenly stilled, the oppressive darkness lifted, and for the first time, Sophia could see the stars breaking through the clouds. She turned to see Eleanor's spirit standing by the well, her face no longer twisted in sorrow. "Thank you," she whispered before fading into the night. The morning after, the cabin in the rain, a night of terror, the curse lingering echo. A deceptive dawn, as the first rays of sunlight pierced through the trees. Sophia felt a fleeting sense of relief. The oppressive atmosphere of the forest had lifted, but something still felt off. The gas station attendant, trembling but alive, Saturday on the ground, trying to process what had just happened. "Is it over?" he asked cautiously. Sophia wanted to say yes, but deep down, she wasn't sure. The forest seemed calmer, but there was a lingering energy, a faint hum that hinted the curse might not be entirely gone. "We need to leave this place," she said firmly, helping him to his feet. Together, they began walking toward what they hoped was the edge of the forest. A grim reminder. As they walked, the forest shifted subtly. The trees no longer seemed hostile, but they whispered. The sound was faint, like distant voices carried on the wind. Sophia tried to ignore it, but the whispers grew louder with every step. When they reached a clearing, they saw something that frowned them in their tracks, a new stone slab, identical to the one by the well. Inscribed on it were the words, "The sins of the past are never truly buried. They always rise again." Sophia's heart sank. "It's not over," she whispered. The attendant shook his head in disbelief. "What does that mean? We stopped it, didn't we?" Before Sophia could answer, the ground beneath their feet began to tremble. The return of the shadows. From the trees around them, faint shadowy figures emerged. They weren't as distinct as the one that had haunted them earlier, but their presence was equally unnerving. The figures stood silently, watching, their forms flickering like dying flames. One figure stepped forward, its face a blur of shifting darkness. It pointed toward Sophia, and a deep, hollow voice echoed in her mind. "You cannot leave. The debt is not paid." Sophia's breath caught in her throat. "What debt? I freed Eleanor. I ended the curse." The shadow shook its head, and a vision flashed in Sophia's mind, a vision of Eleanor's husband killing not just her, but others who had dared trespass on this land. The curse wasn't just about Eleanor. It was tied to the blood spewed here over centuries. The forest's truth. The attendant grabbed Sophia's arm. "We need to run," he shouted. But Sophia knew running wouldn't save them. The forest itself was alive, feeding on the pain and suffering of its victims. Until the full truth was revealed and justice was done, no one who entered the forest would ever truly escape. "We have to find the source," she said. The cabin in the rain, a night of terror. The forest's wrath. The source of the curse. Sophia's resolve hardened. "We can't leave," she told the attendant. "This place, it's alive. It won't stop until we uncover the truth." The attendant looked at her like she had lost her mind. "Are you serious? Look around. This isn't something we can fix." But Sophia ignored his protests. The whispers around them were growing louder, the shadowy figures edging closer. It was clear the forest wanted something: answers, justice, or maybe even blood. Sophia suddenly remembered the old gas station and the missing person posters. She had seen Eleanor's face, but there were so many others. This curse isn't just Eleanor's. She said, it's everyone who suffered here. We need to find out who started it and why. The ancient journal. The shadows seemed to guide them as they reluctantly retraced their steps through the forest. Hours later, they arrived at a ruined chapel hidden among the trees. The building was ancient, its walls covered in moss and vines. At the altar, Sophia found a rotting leather-bound journal. The journal's pages were fragile, but the words were still legible. It belonged to a settler who had lived in the area centuries ago. The entries revealed a horrifying tale. The settlers had stolen the land from a group of indigenous people, massacring them and burying their bodies in the forest. The tribe had placed a curse on the land with their dying breaths, vowing that anyone who spilled innocent blood here would be trapped forever. Eleanor's husband and the countless others who vanished were not victims, they were perpetrators. The forest had claimed them as part of its vengeance. The forest's demand. As Sophia read the final entry, the shadows began to form into clearer shapes, men, women, and children. Their faces were filled with anguish, but their eyes glowed with an otherworldly light. One of the spirits stepped forward, an elder from the tribe. He spoke without words. His voice echoed the cabin in the rain, a night of terror. The forest's judgment. The elder's warning. The spirit of the tribal elder stepped forward, his form shimmering like smoke in moonlight. His voice was deep, yet filled with sorrow, echoing through Sophia's mind rather than her ears. This land was bathed in blood, its spirits restless and bound by vengeance. You have uncovered the truth, but the curse cannot be undone without sacrifice. Sophia's heart sang, sacrifice. What do you mean? The elder extended his hand, gesturing to the shadows gathering around them. The spirits weren't just ghosts of settlers, they were also the souls of the massacred tribe, trapped in eternal torment with their oppressors. The blood of the guilty stains the earth. To cleanse it, a life must willingly be offered to the land, the elder explained. Sophia's breath caught in her throat. She realized the forest wasn't just cursed, that it was a battleground for justice, demanding balance. A choice to make. The gas station attendant, still trembling, stepped back. No, we're not doing this. This is insane. Sophia turned to him. Panic and sorrow etched across her face. If we don't end this now, more people will suffer. The curse will spread. This forest will keep taking lives. The attendant shook his head violently. Why us? We didn't do anything. We're not part of this. The elder's gaze fell on Sophia, his expression unreadable. He spoke again, his voice soft but firm. The burden falls to those who uncover the truth. You are the bridge between the past and the present. Will you restore balance, or let the darkness grow? The forest's fury. Before Sophia could respond, the ground trembled violently. The shadows began to writhe, their forms contorted into monstrous shapes. The forest itself seemed enraged, its trees twisting and groaning as if alive. The elder's voice cut through the chaos. Choose, or the forest will consume you both. Sophia turned to the attendant. We don't have time. If we don't act now, we're dead. But the attendant was frowning in fear. I can't do this. Sophia looked back at the elder. If I do this, will it really end the curse? Will the spirits finally rest? The elder nodded solemnly. Yes, but your choice must be made freely. The ultimate sacrifice. Sophia clenched her fists, tears streaming down her face. She didn't want to die, but she couldn't. The Cursed New Keeper. A new beginning or a dark continuation. Years passed since Sophia's sacrifice. The forest had returned to an eerie stillness. Its whispers silenced, and no one dared step foot within its borders. Locals shared stories of a young woman who had ended the curse, turning her into a legend. But deep in the forest, where Sophia gave her life, the ground stirred. Beneath the moss-covered earth, something ancient awakened. The stranger's arrival. One stormy night, a lone traveler named Daniel arrived in the area. He was a historian drawn by the myths surrounding the cursed forest. Locals warned him to stay away, but he dismissed their concerns as superstition. "There's no such thing as curses," he muttered, his flashlight cutting through the dark as he approached the forest's edge. But as he stepped into the woods, an overwhelming sense of unease washed over him. The air was thick, and the shadows seemed unnaturally deep. Still, he pressed on, determined to uncover the truth. Signs of the past. As Daniel ventured deeper, he stumbled upon minutes of the past Sophia's journal, still intact despite the years. Lying near the old well, he flipped through its pages, fascinated by her accounts of the curse, the spirits, and her ultimate sacrifice. But as he read, the forest began to change. The shadows grew darker, the air colder, the well, long dormant, started to emanate a faint, pulsating glow. "What is this?" Daniel whispered, stepping closer. Suddenly, a whisper reached his ears, a woman's voice. "You shouldn't have come here." Daniel spun around, but no one was there. The voice was familiar yet unplaceable, and it seemed to echo from within the well. Sophia's warning. Peering into the well, Daniel saw something unexpected, a faint figure emerging from the depths. It was Sophia. Her face was calm but stern, her ghostly form shimmering in the dim light. "You've disturbed the balance," she said. "The curse isn't gone. It's been waiting for someone like you." "What are you talking about?" Daniel asked, fear creeping into his voice. Sophia explained that her sacrifice had ended the cycle temporarily, but the curse wasn't destroyed, it had simply gone dormant, waiting for someone to awaken it. By entering the forest and touching the well, Daniel had unknowingly rekindled its power. The curse returned. The shadows around the forest began to stir again, forming into shapes that loomed in the darkness. The trees groaned, their branches twisting toward Daniel. "You must leave," Sophia urged, "before it's too late." But before Daniel could move, the ground beneath him gave way. He fell into the well, his flashlight spinning into the abyss. The depths of the curse. When Daniel regained consciousness, he found himself in a vast underground cavern. The walls were covered in ancient carvings, depicting the original massacre and the curse that followed. At the center of the cavern was an altar, pulsating with an unnatural light. On the altar lay an ancient relic, a dagger, glowing faintly. It was the same weapon Sophia had used to end the curse. Daniel reached for it, but as his fingers brushed the blade, the shadows in the cavern came alive. The cursed new keeper, the elder spirit, appeared once more, his expression grim. "You have chosen this path," he said. "The curse now binds itself to you. Will you fight it, or will you fall as others have?" Daniel had no choice but to take the dagger. As he did, the cavern shook, and the shadows surged toward him. He realized the curse wasn't just a force to be undead, it was alive, hungry, and it had chosen him as its new vessel. To be continued. Bound by shadows. The weight of the curse. Daniel gripped the dagger tightly as the cavern filled with shadows. They twisted and writhed, their forms whispering secrets and curses in an ancient language he couldn't understand. The elder spirit loomed above him, its gaze heavy with sorrow and finality. "You have awakened the forest strat. There is no escape now. You are its keeper, its prisoner, and its judge." Daniel shouted, "I didn't ask for this. I just wanted to understand." The elder's voice echoed coldly, "And now you will. All who come seeking the truth must pay the price. You will carry the curse until you make the forest whole again." Visions of the past. Suddenly, Daniel was overwhelmed by visions. He saw the settlers, their faces twisted with greed, raising the land and slaughtering the tribe. He saw Eleanor's husband dragging her lifeless body through the woods. He saw Sophia standing at the well, sacrificing herself to calm the vengeful spirits. And then he saw something new, visions of the forest spreading its curse to nearby towns, consuming everything in its path. The elder's voice spoke once more. "The curse is not bound to this forest alone. Its roots have grown. If you do not act, it will devour the innocent once more." The burden of the dagger. The forest's keeper. The dagger's truth. As Daniel gripped the dagger, its surface burned with unnatural heat. It wasn't just a weapon, it was a conduit, holding the rage, pain, and sorrow of every soul bound by the curse. The elder spirit loomed closer. "This blade is your burden now. Through it, you will see the truth of the land and bear the cost of redemption." Daniel felt the dagger pull at his mind, dragging him into a flood of memories. He saw the massacre of the tribe from the perspective of the settlers, their fear, their greed, and their desperate belief they were justified. Then he saw the tribe's agony as their lives were stolen and their prayers to the spirits for justice turned into curses born of rage. The dagger's glow pulsed, as if alive. Sophia's voice echoed faintly. "Use it wisely, or you'll become what you fear." A new keeper's task. Daniel finally found his voice. "What am I supposed to do? How do I stop this?" The elder pointed to the cavern walls, where symbols began to shift and glow. They depicted a ritual alone that could break the curse permanently. "You must mend the divide," the elder said. "Bring peace to the spirits of the tribe and the settlers. Only then will the forest rest." "Ah," Daniel asked, desperation rising in his voice. "By uncovering the truth hidden in the forest's heart," the elder replied, "and by sacrificing what you hold most dear." The forest's heart. The shadows parted, revealing a path leading deeper into the cavern. The air grew colder with each step as Daniel ventured forward. The dagger's glow illuminated grotesque carvings of tortured faces and gnarled roots. At the end of the path stood a massive tree, its trunk split open like a jagged wound. The tree seemed alive, its bark shifting and pulsing like flesh. It was the forest's heart, source of its power. As Daniel approached, he heard voice pleas, screams, and whispers from the spirits trapped within the tree. We were betrayed, our pain was ignored, justice was stolen from us. Daniel's head spun as the weight of their suffering pressed down on him. The tree's roots began to stir, curling toward him like fingers. A test of resolve. The elder spirit reappeared, his form flickering. The forest will test your resolve. If you are weak, it will consume you. If you are strong, it will reveal what you must do. The roots lashed out, wrapping around Daniel's ankles and pulling him toward the tree. He felt the dagger pulse in his hand, urging him to fight back. Memories of Sophia flashed before him, her sacrifice, her courage. If she could face the forest's wrath, so could he. With a shout, Daniel plunged the dagger into the tree's heart. The forest screamed, a sound that echoed through the cavern and beyond. The shadows recoiled, and the air grew still. A choice to make. The tree began to split further, revealing a glowing core within a swirling mass of light and darkness. The elder spoke again. This is the forest's soul, fractured by hate. Heal it, and you will free the spirits. Destroy it, and the forest's wrath will be silenced, but its pain will remain forever. Daniel hesitated, the weight of the decision bearing down on him. If he healed the soul, it might require more sacrifices. If he destroyed it, the curse might stop, but the spirits would never find peace. Sweat dripped from his brow as he gripped the dagger. The fate of the forest and perhaps his own soul rested on his next move. A path divided, Daniel stood frowning before the swirling core of light and shadow, the dagger heavy in his hand. The elder spirit's words echoed in his mind. Heal it or destroy it. The glowing core pulsated as if alive, and the whispers of the trapped spirits grew louder. Some pleaded for peace, others begged for vengeance. Sophia's voice resonated faintly in his ears. Your choice will shape the forest's future. Choose wisely. The spirit's warning. The elder spirit stepped closer, his translucent form flickering in the cavern's dim light. Beware, Daniel. Healing the forest requires you to bear the pain of both the innocent and the guilty. Their memories, their sovereignty will all become yours. But destroying it, Daniel interrupted. What happens if I destroy it? The elder hesitated, his face darkening. The curse will end, but the balance will be lost. The forest will die, its spirits erased, its power will fade, but its sorrow will echo forever in the land. Daniel clenched his fists, torn between two impossible choices. The healing ritual. Taking a deep breath, Daniel made his choice. I'll heal it, he said, his voice trembling but resolute. The elder nodded solemnly. Then prepare yourself. The forest will not make this easy. As Daniel stepped closer to the core, the dagger in his hand transformed.
The Sapling Secret, a new mystery. Years after Daniel healed the forest and left the cursed woods, whispers of strange phenomena began circulating among locals. Some reported seeing a golden sapling in the heart of the forest that glowed faintly at night. Others claimed that those who touched it vanished without a trace. Daniel, now a reclusive writer chronicling the legends of the cursed forest, received a strange letter. The envelope contained an old map marked with a red X over the forest center and a cryptic message. The forest's heart still beats. Your work isn't finished. Haunted by the memories of his experience, Daniel decided to return, compelled by an unease he couldn't shake. Into the depths again, a familiar path. Stepping back into the forest, Daniel was struck by how different it felt. The oppressive aura was gone, but a strange energy lingered. The golden sapling had grown into a small tree, its roots spreading like veins across the forest floor. As he approached the tree, a chilling voice echoed in his mind. Why did you leave us? Daniel spun around, but no one was there. The voice sounded familiar, Shivers. Before he could react, the tree's roots began to move, twisting and curling toward him. They didn't attack, but instead pointed toward a nearby cave he hadn't noticed before. The entrance was shrouded in darkness, its air heavy with mystery. The Cave of Shadows, the ancient chamber. Inside the cave, Daniel discovered an ancient chamber, filled with carvings depicting the cycle of the curse. At the center was an altar similar to the one he had seen years ago, but this time it held a new object, a golden orb pulsing faintly with light. When he touched the orb, a flood of visions overwhelmed him. He saw the spirits of the tribe, but now they were restless again. Their faces were blurred, their forms twisted as though they had been dragged back into torment. Sophia's voice spoke once more. The balance is incomplete. The cycle has begun again. A new curse, a deadly revelation. Daniel realized that while the curse was temporarily broken, its roots had not been fully severed. The orb held the remnants of the forest's pain, waiting for someone to take its power and responsibility. The carvings around the altar revealed a horrifying truth. The one who heals must become the watcher. Without a guardian, the forest will fall into chaos once more. Daniel was horrified. Sophia's sacrifice had been incomplete because no one had taken her place. The forest needed a keeper Somio who would carry its burdens eternally. The golden orb flared brightly, and Daniel heard Sophia's voice again, pleading, "Don't let the forest fall. You must choose. The eternal keeper, a sacrifice renewed." Daniel faced an impossible choice. He could walk away and let the curse grow unchecked, or he could take the orb and bind himself to the forest forever, becoming its eternal guardian. The shadows in the cave began to rise, forming a circle around him. The spirits of the tribe and the settlers appeared, their faces filled with sorrow. The elder spirit's voice echoed through the chamber. Decide now, will you take the mantle, or will the forest claim another victim? Tears streamed down Daniel's face as he gripped the orb. He whispered, "If this is the only way, I'll do it." The moment he spoke, the orb dissolved into his hands, its energy coursing through his veins. The shadows receded, and the spirits bowed their heads in gratitude before fading into light. Daniel felt his humanity slipping away, replaced by an ancient awareness. He was no longer just a man who was the forest's keeper. its protector, and its prisoner. The Keeper's Awakening. The bond with the forest. As Daniel became the forest's eternal keeper, his senses sharpened and his mind expanded to encompass the entire woods. He could feel every leaf swaying in the wind, hear every creature's heartbeat, and sense every shadow shifting in the underbrush. But with this heightened awareness came the weight of the curse, the memories of the tribe, settlers, and every soul that had perished in the forest became a part of him. Their pain burned in his chest, a constant reminder of the burden they now carried. In the distance, a group of hikers unknowingly entered the forest. Daniel felt their presence like an edge he couldn't ignore. He reached out, his mind touching theirs, and whispered a warning into the wind. Leave this place before it's too late. But they didn't listen. The lost travelers. The curse reignited. The hikers, a group of 3 friends, stumbled deeper into the forest. Despite Daniel's warnings, they were drawn to the golden tree, unaware of its significance. As they approached, the air grew colder, and shadows began to coil around them. Daniel materialized before them, his form no longer entirely human. His eyes glowed with an unnatural light, and his voice carried the weight of the forest. You must leave. This forest is not safe. One of the hikers, a skeptic named Clara, laughed nervously. Nice try, forest ranger. We're just here to take some photos. Before Daniel could intervene, the tree's roots lashed out, ensnaring one of the hikers. Their scream echoed through the woods as the shadows dragged them into the earth. The forest was testing Daniel's resolve, reminding him of its hunger. The Keeper's Dilemma. A fight against the forest. Daniel knew the forest demanded balance, but he refused to let more lives be lost. He channeled his newfound powers, commanding the roots to release the hikers. The forest resisted, its will clashing with his. The ground trembled as the forest retaliated, sending waves of shadows and twisted branches toward Daniel. He shielded the remaining hikers, guiding them toward an ancient stone circular place of sanctuary where the forest power couldn't reach. Inside the circle, Daniel faced the hikers, their faces pale with fear. You need to leave now. If you stay, you'll end up like your friend. But what about them? Clara asked, tears streaming down her face. Daniel looked away, his heart heavy. They're gone. The forest has claimed them. The rising darkness. The forest's rebellion. Daniel's act of defiance angered the forest. The shadows began to spread between its borders, creeping toward nearby towns. The balance was shifting again, and Daniel realized that his refusal to let the hikers die had consequences. Sophia's voice echoed in his mind. You cannot save them all. Sacrifices must be made to preserve the balance. Daniel wrestled with his role as the keeper. Could he truly protect the forest without becoming its enforcer? Or would his humanity doom the land to chaos? As the hikers escaped the forest, Daniel felt a new presence as something darker and older than the curse itself. He whispered to him, promising freedom if he let the forest's wrath run unchecked. The ancient entity, a new threat. Deep within the forest, Daniel discovered the source of the whispers, an ancient entity buried beneath the golden tree. Unlike the spirits of the tribe or settlers, this being was pure malevolence and embodiment of the forest's rage and despair. The entity spoke to Daniel, his voice a low rumble that shook the earth. You are weak, keeper. The forest needs a ruler, not a savior. Release me, and I will ensure its power is eternal. Daniel realized the entity had been influencing the curse all along, twisting the spirit's pain into violence. If it was free, it would consume not just the forest, but everything in it. The golden tree began to wither, its light dimming as the entity's power grew. Daniel had to act quickly, but the forest's energy was draining him.